Hello everybody and welcome to this new Premodern video. Today we're talking about a deck which is all about creativity and being mean to your opponent. It's a twist on the classic P-Track archetype with a fiery red edge. I had a ton of fun playing with it and I can say it's one of my favorite decks ever. To build this deck, I mixed black hand control with red impulsive burn spells. And the result is a ruthless dual control build that rewards smart play. All about pressure, pain and precision. Usually the P-Track build is either mono black or black white, with a core set of 30-35 cards that define the game plan. From my perspective, neither of these versions offer enough flexibility to adapt to the most of the matchups in the format, sitting steadily between other tier 2 decks and requiring a deep knowledge of the meta to discard efficiently the opponent's hands. But as an honest lover of this deck, I didn't give up and eventually designed this black-red version that blends the best feature of both colors. Adding red spells, we are able to be faster on the battlefield and remove efficiently creatures or artifacts that the opponent manages to cast. We enrich the sideboard options and we can choose between a wide range of spells with dual use. The deck that results is less centered on the P-Track lock, but instead is more of a versatile mid-range deck with higher success rate. At its core, this is still a P-Track deck. So you want to strip your opponent's hand with Duress, Unmask, Cabal Therapy, Bottomless Pit. For this build I include the Dark Ritual, which provides acceleration, letting you drop some heavy disruptions early in the game, even if this makes necessarily the deck a bit more black-centered. On the other hand, red plays a critical support role. Lightning Bolt, Terminate, Sulfuric Vortex, and small creatures like the Puppet will wipe away other monsters and deal decisive damage. When your opponent is low on life and enters the burn zone, he may lose the game with few direct damage from well-placed spells. I can't remark enough how important these last damages are. Mono black builds often stalls if the Rack is countered or the Hypnotic Spectre is removed. Red solves that problem with direct, hard to avoid damage. The synergy between discard and burn make this deck both flexible and deadly. This is a sample card set, most of them are dual use, so you can choose what you prefer to make your own list. The Rack for sure is the Silent Executioner, it provides passive damage and punishes empty hands. The Bottomless Pit adds a measure of unpredictability to the discard mechanic, making it much more disruptive for the opponent. You will have to pay for its value, but together with the Rack is the bread and butter of this archetype. Duress and Mask Cabal Therapy are the most effective target discard, and there is not much to add. If you play them at the right moment, they can dismantle combos and deal with any kind of spell. Terminate, in my opinion, is the best single creature removal in the format, since it hits the opponent with no backsides. Lightning Bolt is versatile and extremely decisive. Mog Fanatic is exactly what the mono black build was lacking, a fast drop that eventually can remove small utility creatures, and the Hypnotic Spectre, even if at times doesn't get enough love, is still irreplaceable in every build. Dealing flying damage plus discarding a card is way too hard for the opponent to just live with that. From my experience, this deck adapts to the meta with precision. I tested it with most of the tier 1 and 2 decks, and in many cases I ended up having effective cards in hand for the specific moment of the game. Here is how it interacts with some of the actual best archetypes. Against green-white Enchantress, of course the enchantments are a tough threat once they resolve. If the opponent has the gameplay rolling, there is not much to counter it. You should rely heavily on early discards to strip the key pieces. From the game 2 you can get the Engineer Plug or Nevinirral Disc from the sideboard. White-Blue Parallax Replenish has similar threats, the pieces of the combo are hard to respond, and in this case, discarding random cards with the bottomless pit can slow down the opponent consistently. From the sideboard, you can pick Tombroad's Script and Planar Void to interrupt the recursion from the graveyard. Against burn, it's basically a race to zero. This card is a very effective way to slow down the opponent, and in many cases it will determine the game in our favor. Again, it's important to deal with the aggressive creatures, but we have plenty of responses in this sense. If you manage to remove from the opponent's hand the Lightning Bolt or Incinerate, he will soon run short of options, and the Rock will finally end the game. You can also use the Zuran Orb to gain life, but I personally prefer to keep that slot in the sideboard to counter other, more complicated matchups. Phyrexian Devourer is a fast combo deck that relies on the stack, and since we don't have counters, it is again a big threat. Pay a lot of attention to discard or terminate either the Devourer or the Altar of Dementia before they're both in play. This way you break the combo and the opponent doesn't have an alternative way to win. Here you have some ideas for the sideboard, but as always, check the current meta on TC decks because you want to update it every now and then. Let's move now to the conclusion. Based on the current meta, the Pitrak is a tier 2 deck with a meta share around 3%. I played this black-red variant extensively and I can honestly say it adds flexibility and effectiveness, solving some weaknesses of the mono-black builds, like dealing the last few damages. The biggest threat is still represented by enchantments, but we do have the option to slow down combos discarding cards from the hand. So is this black-red Pitrak build still a tier 2? Yes, the tier 1 will probably stay the same until we don't see a rework in the ban list, or at least some spells will not be limited. But this deck is a serious threat for every opponent. A lot will also depend on the initial hand and your knowledge of the meta. Generally speaking, this deck is highly versatile, is fully a mid-range deck with a strong surprise factor and solid protection against creatures. It's extremely fun, it rewards smart decisions and punishes hesitation. Give it a try, come back and let me know your opinion.